What makes a narcissist? Um, in the olden times when they said a narcissist, I'm going to start off a little. I'm going to step ahead. What I was going to say. What makes a narcissist so disgusting? Really, it's a different breed of animal, man. I'll tell you, the species is like, whew. Anyhow, in the olden days, before it was said narcissist, they were called antisocial. Some people went as far as because they saw that maybe this condition, they would call it. Of course, you got to have the people out there with the BAs and the BSs and all that stuff got to come along and say, well, it's a psychological disorder. It's based upon certain things that happened to them when they were young. It's got to be trauma and all. They go on and on and on and on and on, right? And then they came out with sociopaths, right? So while they're busy doing what they were doing, running around in circles, these people existed, and they were responsible for the most horrific and horrifying things from which would make some horror movies. How can I put it? Appear like Bambi meeting Godzilla. Well, I say Bambi meeting Godzilla. I don't like that. I like Bambi, by the way. Bambi's an old cartoon guy, right? But the thing is that when they started making movies of people going off way beyond psychological, and then they were like, they in the movies they made them out to be demon possessed, right? Like the movie The Shining, you know, and that movie Carrie. I don't know if you remember that movie from I think it's the 70s, the Carrie, right? The girl who basically had psychic powers, and in the end, she basically, it turned into a real horror movie, right? And I mean, of course, the captain, the mistress, the captain of the movies was the Exorcist, right? You want to see a narcissist, really? That's don't. By the way, don't watch that movie. Right? All those movies, some of those old movies, and in the 70s, they probably was more of like there more is today. It's probably become more realistically acceptable to make a lot of shows about it. People have become hungry to go watch it. Horror movies have always been around, right? Like people, even way back in the black and white days, is when they had Dracula and some of these other movies that people would say, well, it titillates the shock the shock therapy. It gets you kind of doing the things, and you should do it in the theater with everyone else, right? So it was called audience togetherness. I'll watch this crazy stuff on the screen unfold. The truth of the matter is that, or I should say, the facts of the matter is that narcissism, and however you may upplay it or downplay it, is a very real condition. And what I mean by that is that there's an old adage in physics, or even in any given laws and principles as they work. They said certain conditions must be met for a result to take place, right? This condition, on whatever level you may have it, or know it, or experience it, or even see it played out in a society that's taught to be safe, a society that's taught to be, let's just keep going until this happens. And I'm not saying they say that, but that's usually, it's business as usual until something comes and shocks you, right? The thing is about what makes them so disgusting is that they have been given a leadway and a lack of attention, which is what they're looking for, by the way. But what I mean is that if the consequences were much more huge for who they are and what they have become, they'd probably be a lesser acting out, or a more of a introspective ability given to them to reconsider this condition. In way back in history, they had public hangings, they had electrocution, And then the laws became a little more lax, that they started to get more psychological. Well, we can basically rehabilitate people. And it's not to say that some people are, how can I put it, there's no hope for anybody, right? If you're the kind of a person that you just simply would like to live and be happy, you don't understand why everyone just can't live and be happy, why everyone just can't stay in their own lane, why everyone just can't be more helpful instead of hurtful, why everyone can't just be a little bit more encouraging instead of discouraging. Why is it that people have a tendency more to find a way to get underneath your skin instead of basically helping you to become shinier, like olive oil. Like olive oil. Yes. I use olive oil on my skin, by the way. It's really good thing to use. You want to consider an oil to use. It's very healthy for your skin. Narcissist people are rotten. Whether it's like a tree, not tree, but like a fruit. When you take a rotten fruit and you plant it beside another fruit, it is um, it is natural. There's not no specific laws that says that good fruit is gonna be able to stop that rotten fruit from affecting it. It will rot with the other fruit. It'll cause the other fruit to become rotted. Also, mold and all these other things begin to come into play, right? At some point in our life and in our lifespan, there's obviously whether it's found. I mean, in families, I've seen it and I've experienced it. That why is it that some people in a family line can grow up with certain experiences, and same with everyone else. They all have the experiences, and some choose to basically go down the narcissistic route, and the other ones choose to go down the empathetic route, right? And one becomes the role playing begins, right? The one begins to it wants to replicate the role, and the other one begins to be the role player they go along with. In our life, in our lifetime as we live, I think narcissism what makes them so disgusting more than anything else is that they get away with a whole lot, man. They get away with it. And I think that's what makes them even more disgusting. Like little toddlers with nasty diapers still on them, that haven't had their garbage changed, and they're still walking around with it. People know they stink. People are more apt to reject a nice, good-natured person they are a narcissist. And I've seen it. I've worked in quite a few different in government sites and stuff like that, and I've seen this. I've seen narcissistic people get praise, hey, and all this other stuff, practically celebrated, and a good-natured person doesn't. I've seen narcissistic bosses boss the empathetic person and put her out in an area and have everyone else basically join her in making the other person a target. And the one thing about them that I discover is that they're extreme cowards. The majority of the time, the crime and the disgusting behavior they have to find company around them. And even though the cowardly, empathetic ones will also join in with them, it's knowing somewhere inside, that's where they haven't grown themselves. They become partakers of the dynamics of the narcissist. When a narcissist gets called out in any way, shape, or form, it is hopefully it's going to be by a person of authority. And what they do is they put them in their place and they shame them. One of the most beautiful things that can happen to change narcissists from being disgusting is the idea of shame. But the Bible says that unjust knows no shame. There's another scripture that says that about a wicked, immoral woman will wipe her mouth and says, I've done no wickedness, right? Their lack of morals and all this other stuff um, makes them, the very lack The very lack, they lack, they simply lack. If anything, you can open up the doorway to look inside there. They just lack. It's nothing there. It's rotten. It's dark cobwebs. It just, and you may even see a few spiders and snakes, and if you look deeper. And the one thing that makes them even more disgusting is that they have a putrefying smell about them if you pay attention. And that's where I really believe there's other entities involved with their environment. They have the ability, and I mean this, they really do have the ability that if you sleep in their place, you will experience non-rest. And the one thing that's so sad about their disgusting behavior is they don't seem the least bothered of the tormenting factor that is in their environment. Even if some of the some, I speak for all of them, they're the ones that they experience depression more. I'm not saying that some people that suffer depression, it could be because they're under oppression by forces that are attacking their lives. It could be a variety of reasons, right? But their depression and morose attitude and who they are should make people be repelled by them. And it's complete opposite effect. A lot of times people do want to have something to do with them. And based upon the fact that their disgusting behavior of being aggressive, they're super aggressive. And when I started out the video, I said about what makes them so disgusting. These are some of the qualities that make them so disgusting. The part that makes it even more disgusting on the part that so sad about them that makes them so disgusting is their unwillingness to realize it's going to come back on them. You can't allow that stuff in your life, and that's how it's going to come back. I mean, later on in your life, people, and I've met people that they're 60 and you could swear they look like 90, 80, or they're 40 and they look like they've gone past 70. Their faces are hard. There's something different about them. Even something, a color coming off their skin, like a putrefying green kind of color. And they smell wherever they will lie down. That it is, and I've smelt it. It's like dead flesh. In the, you get, it's like a musty dead person was there. I can't put can't really give a descriptive word for it, but they can have the best hygiene and still stink rank. And the thing is that where I'm going with this, what makes a narcissist so disgusting is they just don't want to accept the consequences. That is what makes it so disgusting. Like, you're thinking, oh my goodness, do you realize that whilst I may have feel nice and kind and caring for you, I'm waiting for the right moment, and I've already made up my mind, and I'm building more and more of a momentum in my brain to reject you. I want to reject you based on the fact you're just putrid. You're just too much, and you're unsafe. And that's a part that even makes them disgusting. They will lose people who care for them. And even though they may surround themselves with people they can, and they have this funny laugh too, that they laugh the way they laugh, and it's like a stupid clown laugh. You don't sense no depth. When they talk with you and they talk to you, you just kind of walk away going, ugh, gross. There's something just so, and the other thing about them too is that I'm going to go into another video about it, the effects that they have, and just a snippet of it. If they have animals, the effects that they have on their animal, the animal will begin to change, and the animal will begin to reflect in a right in your face way that this is who owns me, and this is what I'm receiving from. And an animal right before your face show you, and that's something to pay attention to about them. If they have animals, watch how their animals behave. And that's usually one of the biggest telltale signs that even though they may be smiling, the animal will be telling you the real story. You all have a good day. Do like and subscribe, and we'll talk some more.